Hello! I made another arty junk journal, this one completely from scratch. I've filled it with papers and I thought I'd flip through it today so you could see everything inside. I even bound this by hand, so I'm pretty proud of it. I fully intend on painting in this too, so let's get into it. So what is a junk journal? It's pretty much whatever you want it to be, with any materials. I upcycled this. It was an old calendar book and it had a huge spiral binding which I really didn't like, so I got rid of it and I made a spine out of cardboard, and then to bind it all together I've used some rope, so it has two big signatures that I've tied in and you can actually remove the pages. This made it really easy to glue everything in, and it's nice and sturdy. I did glue it a bit to the spine so it won't move around. The inside cover says Crafty Bits Journal, and these are offcuts from my Cricut machine, so I thought I'd just stick them in there, but I've added to it since then. It's Crafty and Arty Bits Journal, so I'm fully intending on filling this book with paintings as well. It's going to be kind of like a sketchbook. A lot of the pages I used are from these English magazines called Daphne's Diary. They always have so many pretty designs in them, and some of the pages in my journal are actually from the covers of earlier editions, so I pulled them off and I've stuck them in because the paper's really nice. But you can see there's lots of little crafty projects and cute little pictures. I've been cutting things out of my magazines and making a right old mess, but I find once I've read them through that they just sit around doing nothing, so I may as well use the pretty pictures for something else. And this entire book that I've made is inspired from a lot of Daphne's Diaries pages. I've cut bits and pieces out. I've got some of the recipe cards that came in them. I completely forgot to show you the back of it, which has the actual recipe in multiple languages, and I did actually paint on a couple of these, but it won't be shown in this particular video. The page on the left came from the magazine, and this is one of the Daphne's Diaries covers, which I've stuck on all sorts of bits and pieces. The card that I'm about to pull out is something my mum sent me. It was a card she received and it was too pretty to throw away, so she's given it to me, and I stuck this yellow paper on the back because I really want to do a painting on the back of the card. I also have a lot of my scrapbooking papers in here, and I have just made all sorts of little journal cards which you meant to write in normally, and I just realised I forgot to stick some lined paper on the back of that. But yes, I use all sorts of little cards and things that I get in junk mail. They're very useful as backing cards. This is actually an envelope flip out, and inside I've made a little card to fit. And inside that I have more pockets and tags, using all of my different papers, a lot of scrap pieces that I've stuck on. And I guess the purpose of these junk journals is so that you can journal in them on these little cards, but I'm not much of a journaler, so I was thinking I could paint pictures and maybe add some writing as well. I mean, this book is already so busy. Look how many different patterns I've used. I find it incredibly therapeutic to cut out bits of paper and pictures from magazines and glue things together, so this is what I tend to do when I'm not actually making art. Although it is kind of an art form in itself, choosing papers that might go together and then adding stickers, making pockets and tags. It is so much fun. I highly recommend this if you haven't tried it yet. And you can use anything to make these books with. Old paper bags, cereal boxes, business cards. This piece on the left is some writing paper that I've had for years and I never knew what to do with. There's another one of my Cricut stickers. That was a test piece, so I thought I'd stick it in there. I had some cute pieces of paper, so I thought I'd make some little tags with them, with birds and flowers. My favourite things to put in junk journals are birds, flowers and butterflies. And I just picked all sorts of different colours that I thought might go together nicely. Now this card actually came in this calendar journal, so I've been utilising those as well. I found it in a charity shop for I think $2 the whole thing, and it's ended up making a really awesome journal. I've just got quite a lot of little cards and things that I've picked up from craft shows. And of course I have an enormous stash of scrapbooking paper, and once I discovered the joys of junk journaling, I've managed to use up quite a lot of my paper, although I keep ending up going to craft de-stash shows and buying more of it, but on discounts of course. So I'll pull out this greeting card just to show you it a bit more. I've covered the entire thing except for the front, which was the original picture. This is another Cricut printout. I haven't used the Cricut machine a lot yet because I've been waiting until a bit later this year to actually get the subscription for all of the designs that they have. So I should probably get that organised this month. One of the discount paper packs I bought had all these really cool looking stamps and other little bits and pieces. And that pocket I've made, I'm in the mood for love, is actually from a music book that I found in a charity shop. I took that great adventure card out of this journal because I'm going to put it in another one. And that's the great thing about it, you could pull cards out and put different things in if the original one doesn't really work out. This was an envelope I'd had for ages. It's on really nice paper and I didn't want to throw it out, so I've just made it kind of like a card, but I can put something in it. That pink polka dot paper is from my birthday last year. I kept some of the wrapping paper, and I've made some more cute butterfly cards. I ripped it. That is actually from a piece of wrapping paper too, but I stuck it in anyway. You could probably see how the pages are all different sizes and they're not all even. And that's what I really like about a junk journal, having uneven pages. It just makes it look a lot more quirky and fun. But a ready-made journal where all of the pages are the same is also perfectly fine. I've done a few junk journals like that, but this is my most customized one, where I've curated all of the pieces of paper that go in here for the different pages. I've got a flip-out envelope here with a couple more little cards that I made, and they're just begging for something to go on the back there. I know a lot of people who make the junk journals tend to just make them and not actually fill them out, and I'm a bit like that too. It's the act of making them which is the most fun part, but I would like to add some paintings and illustrations in here when I can, but you can see I've got so much already in here just with all of the artworks from magazines and the papers that I've chosen. My mum sent me this greeting card as well, which I've turned into a little journaling card, but this was the original design on the back and it's so pretty I just couldn't cover that. On the right hand side is another Daphne's Diary cover page, which is why the pictures are sideways, because it's meant to be turned around 90 degrees. This floral paper also came from one of the magazines, and most of the things on these two pages are cut out from the magazines as well, and I just glued some plain lined paper on the backs of them. This left tag is actually from an envelope and I kept the window in and I stuck a picture underneath it. I have an enormous hoard of window envelopes and I use them in my junk journals. They are so great. So don't throw them out, they can be used. Here's another window envelope which is turned into a pretty little card, and then I've got a few other little cards that I've made here, some from the magazines, especially that one on the left. It's a bit of a sappy poem, but I stuck it in there anyway. I might do something with that down the line. A lot of the line paper I use is from an old diary I had last year, which had a lot of space to write in and I didn't fill it very much, so I thought I'd recycle that paper. I cut the lady out and stuck her on this other picture which came from the magazine. She kind of looks like she fits there, and that flower paper is from wrapping paper again. I had an old book page, so I've stuck that on there, and just made this kind of ugly card which I need to paint on the back of because I don't really like that one very much. Here's another journal card from scrapbook paper, and I will probably paint something on the back of that. I decoupaged a napkin onto this side. It's gone very wrinkly, but it's covered in glue now, so there's not much I can do about that. A shiny owl sticker, and this is another envelope, which came with the cards that were in this calendar diary thing. I wish I'd taken a picture of it before I turned it into this journal, because it's really hard to explain. But here's another window envelope with a pretty picture inside, and some pretty paper I had, so I just left it without any little pockets on it, because putting pockets on every single side also makes the book really bulky, so I had to be a little careful not to put too much in. I have no memory of where this piece of paper came from. It was in my stash. This window envelope came from the United States because it's much larger than the ones we get in Australia. I really liked it, so I put it in here as well. And this is another cover page from Daphne's Diary. It's upside down, but it doesn't really matter. I think to put this whole journal together, it took me somewhere between 4 and 6 months. I just do a little bit every day, and I made this card at a craft show demonstration. I thought I'd stick it in there with Never Give Up, because I really try not to, although YouTube can be pretty exhausting at times. The buildings were from a picture in the magazine. I thought they were so cute, and I'd like to maybe draw some for myself. I've got some space on the back of this card to put something. And the card I made also has a tiny pocket on the front, so I could put something else in there too. Another picture from the magazine. I just thought that was quite pretty, so I thought I'd stick it in. And I just had little bits and pieces laying around, so I glued them in without too much thought. I get sick of looking at small pieces of paper, so I glue them into my books. Flipping over here, I have a really tiny skinny page in this, which I'm showing you now. I can't remember what that is, but I just thought I'd stick it in there because it was cute. I'm really glad I did that rope binding because it means I can pull things in and out of this journal. It's so handy, and I'll definitely be doing that again in the future. It's a really easy way to bind a book too. No sewing involved whatsoever. And I think I put this one in the last minute, but I just like that it's so much smaller than everything else. On the right there is another one of the cards that came out of the journal, and I decided to keep the original paper, but I've covered the rest of it. And I'll add some sort of artwork to this at a future time. The blue letter writing paper I'd stuck in there is some of the oldest paper I own, and I've had that since I was about 10. I also found another little recipe in the magazine, and I thought I would make a little card out of it as well. I really like how that page turned out. And this is more magazine paper. I really liked that design, so I thought I'd stick it in. I'm getting to the end here. There's some more houses from the magazine, and they had these little doll pictures. Normally I don't like dolls, but their eyes are closed, so I can handle that. That scrapbook paper with the bird theme I've used a few times throughout this, and that's the magazine cover. Unfortunately, the girl's head is cut off. I may cover that page in the future. But on the other side of the cover, I've got a pocket, and I also put a little card thing I made with a window envelope, and I've put a sticker over the barcode. This window envelope I turned into a pocket, so eventually I can pull this tag out. I think I'd glued it in and I had to jiggle it a bit. This is one of the first tags I ever made in a window envelope, and it turned out okay. When I slide it in, that little figure sits inside the window. I'm getting to the end here. I've got a couple more pages with little journaling cards that I'm definitely going to paint on the backs of eventually. It's probably going to take me longer to fill this up with paintings than it did to put the whole book together. It's already been a few months and I haven't really touched this very much because I've been doing other things. I've ripped that piece of napkin there, so I'll have to cover that with a sticker. But this is very much an ongoing project. I just thought I would flip through the book before I actually do fill it, because it may look better now than what it will look like when I've added my paintings. It's hard to know. I've just got so much in here, and I completely forgot to put a card in this last pocket. I'll have to remedy that. But that's my whole book. I think it's the best one I've made so far, and now it's time to fill it with some art. So you get to see the first painting that I've ever put in here, and I was flipping through trying to decide what to do. I found a card to put in here. It's perfect with this lovely birdie design. I'm going to paint on the back of it because I have this lined paper that I stuck on, and then I added a bit of brown ink to make it look vintage. I'm going to use some gouache today for this painting. I've got this little set of 12 Holbein Artist gouache in 5mm tubes. This is really nice gouache, and I've been using it a little bit off camera too. And I found a cute photo that I'd like to paint on free reference photos for artists. Pretty sure it's a female cardinal, but mine ended up being a male, I think. But I've got to draw the thing first, so I'm sketching on the back of this journal card directly onto the paper. The paper, I think, is from my old diary, and so it's not very thick. I didn't think watercolour was going to hold up at all, so that's why I went for gouache. I think I'll probably be using gouache in this book, also maybe acrylic paint and pens. As soon as water hit that paper, it started to buckle, so I'm using the paints quite thickly here with the least amount of water possible. And because gouache is quite opaque, it is easy to layer it on itself and build it up, so that's what I did. It was drying really quickly on the paper though, but unlike acrylic paint, it will reactivate in water, so I was able to blend it relatively easily. This was really fun to do, and I quite like doing art on lined paper. It's nice to have the lines showing through. It kind of gives it a vintage effect somehow. It also helped that I had that brown on the back of it, and that was just from a stamp pad, which I applied on with a sponge. And of course my paints are very bright here, which is why I said it looks more like a male than a female. I have never seen a cardinal in person before, but they do look like fascinating birds. Mine looks like a flame bird more than anything else. Those colours were insanely bright. And it looks really angry too. So this painting didn't end up going according to plan, but that's okay. That's pretty much the story of my life anyway. Things really go according to plan, but sometimes I end up with some really interesting results because of it. The main thing is I was having fun doing this painting, and I just really like the idea of painting on the backs of journaling cards like this, because I'm not much of a writing journaler, but I do like to journal with pictures, and I am trying to do that a bit more often, because sometimes it's really hard to fill blank pages in a sketchbook, whereas in a junk journal like this, I have so many pictures already in there. I take inspiration from them, and I can make more artworks that way. I'm adding in a bit of a background because it just looked too plain on the paper, and you could still see the lines coming through, which is what I was intending. Also some of the brown from the stamp, that's completely fine. It gives the whole picture a vintagey feel, and I like that about it. So let me know in the comments, do you ever make your own journals? Whether they're junk journals or plain sketchbooks or even lined journals? I'd love to know. I've taken quite an interest in bookbinding and making my own journals because it's really fun to do, and each one is just so unique. I decided it needed an outline, so I'm turning this into more of a cartoony picture. That's because I realised it didn't turn out very realistic, and I think its head is a bit funny shaped, so I'll just go all in with that pen and change the feel of this picture entirely by making it more illustrative with that black ink. I also did something at the last minute to this picture. You'll see that very soon when I show you the final picture at the end, but some words came to me when I was doing this, and so I wrote them in. The bird still looked angry, and that's what inspired this whole thing. So here's the front of the card, and here is my painting. It's got little glasses on. It looks so stupid, but it makes me laugh every time I turn this thing over. I didn't choose the bird life. The bird life chose me. Oh my god, what was I thinking? I don't know. That's the most fun thing about these journals, and I hope to fill this entire book with all sorts of little pictures and fun stuff like this. But it can go this way, or I can have the serious bird picture on the front, depending on my mood. So that's all I've got for today. I'm going to fill this and maybe come back with a follow-up video. I don't know when, but I do want to paint it all and add lots more into this journal. Let me know what I should paint in here if you have any ideas. And I highly recommend making a book like this. It's so much fun. Thank you all so much for watching my flip through. I really hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. You might want to click subscribe for more videos, and I'll put a couple of other junk journal flip throughs that I've done in the past as well. Have a great day out there, and I'll see you all again in my next video. Swatch you later. Bye!